We're pleased to have the candidates for Moscow City Council in the studios here. Well, two of them. There are four candidates running for 3 open seats on the Moscow City Council. And tonight we have Art Bettge, who is the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Moscow, and former City Council member John Weber. They're both in the studios, and they're getting ready to take phone call questions from you, the listener. So I'll give you the phone number now, and then we'll have some opening statements, and then we'll start taking calls at area code 208-892-9200. So write down that number, 892-9200. Now, there are 4 candidates, as I mentioned, running for city council in Moscow this year: John Weber, Art Bettge, Rebecca Rod, and Walter Steed. And the 4 are running for 3 open seats on the 6-seat city council, and the top 3 vote getters will serve 4-year terms. In Idaho, you don't have to be registered to vote when you show up at the polls on Election Day, which is November 5th, because Idaho does have a law that allows you to register to vote if you bring proof that you lived at your current address for at least 30 days. But Idaho does have a law that you have to show a picture ID or sign an affidavit that you are who you say you are when you show up at the polls. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November 5th at the Latah County Fairgrounds on the east side of Moscow. Absentee ballots can be cast Monday through Friday at the Latah County Courthouse between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. until Friday, November 1st. And KRFP is broadcasting these live call-in candidates forums from our studios. We're going to continue with a series next Monday night with candidates Walter Steed, who's a current city council member, and Rebecca Rod. They'll be in our studios Monday next week at 6:30 p.m. And the candidates for mayor, incumbent Nancy Cheney and Bill Lambert, will be in our studios to take your calls Wednesday, October 30th, also at 6:30 p.m. Each forum will last an hour, and candidates each have 1 minute to answer questions from callers. The call-in phone number, once again, 892-9200. City Council members Tim Brown and Sue Scott have opted not to run for re-election, and Council members Tom Lamar, Dan Carscallen, and Wayne Krause have 2 years remaining in their terms. So the winners of this election will be joining those 3 on the City Council, at least for the next 2 years. The terms are 4 years. The Moscow League of Women Voters also will be holding a candidates forum tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the 1912 Center, East 3rd and Adams Streets in Moscow. So we are going to start with John Weber's opening statement. There's 2-minute opening statements. So go ahead, John.
Good evening, folks. This is John Weber, and yes, I am running for a term in the Moscow City Council arena. I did serve for one other term, 2006 through 2009, so I've got a little bit of an idea of what goes on there. I have been a member of Moscow as far as a citizen for a little over 59 years. I went to grade school, St. Mary's School here in town, Moscow High School, the University of Idaho, and then went back for an MBA and got that in 1976. I worked for approximately 30 years in the beverage industry, left that, opened the Sears store here in town with my 2 partners. We ran that for 3.5 years and sold it. I tried retirement. That didn't work out very well for me, didn't like it. So went back to work, retired again in May of this year, and decided that I was not quite done with the civic duty part of my life, which is running for and trying to be and being on the city council. I am a candidate that feels that Moscow needs to do a little bit more in the growth area than we have done in the past, and we can do that, I believe, without interfering with the quality of life that Moscow affords its citizens. But we do need some more growth so that we can pay our bills, keep the services flowing that the people in Moscow are used to. And I just got the word that I'm done, so we will move on to Art Bettge. And thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, when I hold that one finger up, that means there's 10 seconds left. And now we have Art Bettge with his 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. Like John, I'm also a long-term resident of Moscow. I fetched up here initially back in 1972 to go to college, and subsequent to that, left for a few years and then returned in 1980 and have been here continuously ever since. And during that time, I've seen lots and lots of changes in Moscow. It's one of the constants we could all accept happens. There's always change. And over the years, businesses have come and gone. And what I've observed and would like to address somewhat is the fact that Moscow needs to diversify its economic base. Currently, we're a very fortunate community in having the University of Idaho here, which provides a lot of economic lift to the city that otherwise wouldn't be present. However, the university is proving to be kind of the main economic driver in town, and I think we very much need to expand and diversify our economic base. And by that I mean less to do with retail and service industry, but more with basic fundamental manufacturing, light industrial things. And by saying industrial, I don't mean petrochemicals and pulp. I mean instrument manufacturers, ag processors, organic food processors, things like that can actually manufacture something and bring new money into town. So with that, there are a whole lot of things that the city needs to do to assure that our way of life, our sense of place is maintained, and that we don't dilute ourselves out and become a place that just has economics but not a quality of life that we've all come to know and love here in Moscow. So I would very much like to work on those issues and also some issues concerning expanding our city to make it more friendly to elderly and retired people by way of improving access, improving their ability to have helpers in their house through accessory dwelling units, and generally allowing people to stay in their own homes longer. Would also emphasize working with the University of Idaho to try to increase the number of students in town, which could only help everything else.
And that's Art Bettge's opening statement here, and we'll give each candidate 1 minute to answer questions from the phones. You can call in more than once if you have more than one question. The phone number is 892-9200. That's 892-9200, and we'll look for the light. And if one of the candidates is in the middle of answering a question or going through the cycle of the two candidates, then we'll sort of have your line on hold, and you'll be able to hear what's going on through your phone until we get to you as a caller. We might have two callers waiting at the same time, in which case we'll speak up and we'll respond to you, and you'll know that you're the one on the air. KRFP Moscow. The first question's for Art Bettge. I'm going to go to my list of questions. Is the Southeast Industrial Park going to be light industrial?
I would hope light industrial, because we have no facility for heavy industrial. That would involve way too much infrastructure, road networks that we don't have, and a whole lot of issues with water. So what I'd like to see is a place for businesses to come to Moscow and have a home to set themselves down in. Currently, we don't have any industrial land zoned out for people to come and take advantage of, so we need to zone out some land down there in Southeast Industrial, and probably also invest some taxpayer money in at least stubbing out a road to the first couple of lots, so that if somebody does want to bring their business to our town, they have a place to put down without having to go through zoning and platting problems that always occur when a new business comes into town. We've got to make this as easy as possible for people to be able to come in and do their business here.
Okay, that was Art Bettge, and the same question will go to John Weber.
Well, excuse me, I've getting over one of these colds, so the voice is still breaking up somewhat. I do agree, and at this point there is nothing on the immediate future for doing anything with the industrial zone just to the south of town. But we need to do something. We need to build a place that people will feel good about. We also need to have it set up so that what they need to do when they get here is well defined. And if that means sitting down with the city staff and defining what they have to do, what they need to do, what the rules are, then that's exactly what has to happen. And the more that we can make this a situation where they know what's going to be coming next, the better off we are.
Okay, that was John Weber. The phone number is 892-9200 if you have questions for candidates for Moscow City Council, John Weber and Art Bettge. And we'll have the other two of the four candidates here next Monday night at 6:30, and the candidates for mayor on Wednesday the 30th at 6:30 p.m. Okay, well, let's get to the economic development question. This will go to John Weber first. What are your comments on University of Idaho economist Steve Peterson's study on the Moscow economy that he announced the results of just recently? Do you think our economy is in as poor condition and as dependent on Pullman as he concludes?
Unfortunately, I do agree with most of what Steve said. And I'm using the fact that we have had no real growth in Moscow, no growth in the university in the last 10 years, and we have lost the last of our four new car dealerships just here recently, and none of them appear to be coming back into our town, so that's gone money. That's about $100 million a year that we no longer have, that we can no longer count on in our economy. And the same thing is true with the university. The university's enrollment has stayed pretty stagnant in the last 10 years, and we need to help the university improve that any way that we can. And if we can help them improve the number of students that they have going to the school, the things that Moscow can provide as far as housing, groceries, the items. I'm done.
Okay. And that was John Weber. And now Art Bettge. The question, I'll repeat it. What are your comments on the UI economist Steve Peterson's study on the Moscow economy? Do you think our economy is in as poor condition and as dependent on Pullman as he concludes?
Well, I take a little different perspective on this one. I don't think we are in as bad a shape as he portrayed us as being. He was very much university-centric in his analysis and comments, and I think he neglected the fact that some of the underperforming areas, rather than being underperforming sections of the economy, are actually opportunities for growth and further economic benefit for everyone. I would like to see the university increase the number of students that they have in there, and I would like to see some more of the basic manufacturers come on. As for the car dealers leaving, they're essentially still retail people, very expensive retail that pay a lot of taxes on the ground that they sit on, but they really don't keep a lot of money in town because the vast majority of that money is exported back to Japan or Detroit, where they manufacture the cars. The car dealers do provide some very, very good jobs for mechanics and people like that, but it's not the say-all and end-all. We need to broaden our economic base through industry.
And that was Art Bettge. The next question will go to Art Bettge first. We have a caller on the line. KRFP, you're on the air.